Hey everyone, welcome back. The year is 1295 and today we are going to be working on the second phase of the industrial expansion, which will be a logging industry and a small village to support the workers that will be working in the industries. Not only the forestry one, but the other ones that pop up around there as well. But today we're just going to be focusing on the forestry industry. I'll be calling it the logging industry moving forward just because I like saying that better. But before we get into all that, we do have a brief announcement. So last video I mentioned I would name a road after anyone who wanted one, and to my surprise I got a response. So I did want to have a grand opening for the newly renamed road, the Petrichor Blvd, here inside the Royal City. Thank you so much for your support on my videos, I really appreciate it. Everyone please go check out his channel if you haven't already, I'll link it in the description below. I know Boulevard isn't the most time appropriate name, or it likely isn't, or for that region, but I don't really care, fuck it. I like the sound of it, so. As you've been seeing, I've built the eastern trail leading out to what will become the industry area and the nearby village of Fort Underwood. I wanted to build the logging industry a bit further away from the main kingdom, so there would be a reason to build a small rural village. As I mentioned, we do lay the groundwork for this settlement in this video, but much of the work will be done throughout the development of the other industries. You'll notice I placed a road branching off the eastern trail. This was going to be a smaller logging industry, or even an area where everything goes to get processed and turned into the final product, but I scrapped that idea mid-build. I do plan on placing something at the end of that road soon, but I haven't really decided what that's going to be, so any suggestions are greatly appreciated. I selected the area that's used for a number of reasons besides its distance from the main city, including the abundance of natural resources, the placement next to a large lake, which does not only provide some protection from outside raids, but also can be modified to allow for a shipping route to import and export goods. Also, in the back of my mind, I wanted to make sure I had a reason to start adding train lines as early as possible. Even though that won't be until the early 1800s, I wanted to make sure I had a few settlements already established that would warrant the expansion of adding the new technology. But anyway, I'm getting too ahead of myself. I wasn't really sure what to do with the processing buildings as early on in the kingdom's history, so I was kind of lazy with them. So as you see there, I just ended up hiding them in those huts. Spoiler alert, I do the same thing for the ore industry, but luckily there were assets on the workshop for actual ore extraction assets. So that was really great for that, but for the logging industry here, I think we're going to be stuck with these huts until I find a better alternative. If anyone knows any, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to replace these with something that looks a bit more realistic or a bit more time appropriate, because I really do want to keep the city being as functional as possible, and if that means I have to hide some things in huts that don't really make sense or hide them in other buildings, I'm perfectly fine with that. As long as everything's functional, but also doesn't look out of place. So I tried building a wastewater pit here, but the outflow was way more than I thought. In the end, I ended up placing an overflow canal, which will lead into the river we built in the last video. It wouldn't happen very often, but at least when it did, it would make its way down to where the other waste ends up, towards the massive shit stain in the sea west of Luninberg. I also wanted to keep the new lake free of waste, so there could be the establishment of a small fishing industry, and the lack of water circulation I think would be a horrible mix. But I don't think you'll get to see the canal until a later video. I don't think I added that until later, but when I did, I noticed that it did a much better job of letting all the waste evaporate, so maybe that was the issue. If anyone has any tips or any ideas, please let me know in the comments. I did this once before in a previous city, but I've never been able to do it since. I've never really tried since, so I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought I'd give it a shot anyway. And so now we're working on Fort Underwood, which I think is a fitting name for the industry it supports. I wanted this to be a mostly residential area for the workers, with some commercial around the Underwood marketplace, which will be in the center of the village. I don't think I will expand or evolve the fort area much until the next phase of Luninberg's history, which will be the Renaissance, but we will have a lot to cover before then, so definitely stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see Luninberg grow. Fort Underwood to have a city wall, or I guess a village wall, as sort of a last line of defense against outside raids. I know its position between all these different lakes and stuff might give it a bit of an advantage, but I thought it would be nice to have a little wall like that just because I thought it would be realistic. I also thought it would be an easier sell to get people to move so far away from the actual kingdom, or the actual city I should say, to a place that's kind of remote and is pretty much the frontier of the kingdom, I guess. So I thought adding the city wall would be kind of an incentive to say, hey, like, this isn't as dangerous as it may seem, even though, I mean, it definitely is. I like the name Fort Luninberg, but I think I'm going to add an actual like army base or like an army fort so that the name makes more sense. I also think if I'm going to have all these industries out here, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a unit out there to respond to any raids or any attacks earlier than the ones at the main fort in the royal city. But for right now, you'll see that there's these lookout towers, and I guess the entire village is kind of the fort at the moment. I think later on you'll see me add in a few smaller areas for the military to hang out, but I definitely plan on adding a actual base there, so if anyone has any recommendations or any things that I should use as inspiration, please let me know. It would be great to have an idea of that kind of stuff, since it's not really something I've done very often. One thing I wish was possible was for the ability to see what different districts are using what amount of, say, water or sewage or power, because as you can see here, like, this isn't connected to Luninberg's main water system, which is why I was putting in that wastewater pit earlier, and you'll see that there's wells all throughout the fort. I'm slowly moving away from the old market stands you see me using here into these new ones that I got from the workshop. I think it might be a bit too early to start using some of them. Some look a bit too modern right now, so that's why you see me using the smaller squared ones still. I also love using that giant like market hut there. I think it looks really nice when you add in the people booming mod, or the, I guess, people booming asset into the center, so it looks like it's really busy all the time and you can't really see what's in there. I love building these areas in all the different settlements of the kingdom or in the main kingdom itself. I think these are really the heart of where the people are, and this is really what makes these medieval kingdoms what they are. And of course there's the massive flag in the center of everything. I am in the process of making a flag for the kingdom, but it's just not ready yet. But once it is, I will start swapping out all those old ones in with the new one. But for right now, I think that looks great as a placeholder. Alright, that's going to be it for today, but don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest updates on the Kingdom of Luninberg, and don't forget throughout the week there will be different videos and different posts giving updates on not only this phase of the project you watch now, but also the upcoming ones and the greater kingdom as a whole. I'll see you all next week with another update. Thank you so much for watching.